Today on the Life Surfing Podcast, our individual perception of the so-called reality.
But we get used to a way of perceiving the reality through the sensory perception and through the mind, which is interpreting, judging, concluding on the basis of this, what we perceive in that way. One very fundamental fact is that the human being, like all the other alive beings, are coming with a conditioning which is outward oriented. Our senses, our eyes, our ears, and all the other senses are more outward oriented. And it gives us the basis for being in the world of duality. If you put it more precisely, you can say in the game of duality. Because through the senses we see the form, the appearance, we see the divisions. But those who are wakeful, alert, and consider deeply, go into the experiential understanding, realize that the duality is not the reality. The reality is non-dualistic. But we get used to a way of perceiving the reality through the sensory perception and through the mind, which is interpreting, judging, concluding on the basis of this, what we perceive in that way. That is why human life is so magical, fascinating, incomparably valuable. But the human being is also having to confront the reality and recognize that even though the world, the reality which we call the normal reality, is so fascinating, so beautiful, so interesting, it is only for moments. It's all ongoingly moving and changing. And this is what is very difficult for the normal human being to come in terms with. Because we believe in this idea of reality based on the polarities, where we understand the light by comparing with different shades of darkness, where we understand health in comparison with our experience of pain and sickness and suffering. We understand goodness because we also know how one can be insensitive, one can be bad, one can be hurtful to oneself and to each other. And we see all the values on this relative level. So, to put it bluntly, we are living in the reality where the polarity is the basis. That means we cannot have the idea of the good and understanding of the good without having also some kind of connection to that what is called bad. And so it is in every area. What is right and what is wrong. What is beautiful and what is ugly. What is valuable and invaluable. Again, you can see the playfulness of it when you see that at a certain period when something is in abundance, it is not considered so valuable because we can have it every time. But when it is rare, then it becomes precious, it becomes valuable. Just for the understanding, when we have the water coming out of the tap, and we can drink that and we can have it every time, we don't take it as so important. But when we are coming into areas where there is scarcity of water, where people have to go some distance to pick the water from some wells and come back, or even worse, when we are in areas where it is a desert, where if you don't have sufficient storage of water with you, you cannot survive. Then you don't waste a single drop of water because it's so precious. It is important for the survival. That is how you understand also the relativeness of everything in life. When something is in abundance, we don't even take it as valuable, we take it for granted. And if you look more carefully, we are taking so many things for granted because it's all in a way in abundance. We take each other for granted because we think that everybody is there. What is so special? We take the nature for granted, the plants, the other birds, the animals. We take the air for granted. And the more you are wakeful, the more consciously you bring your attention to all these factors, the more it becomes transparent to you that all that what we take for granted is not to be taken for granted. It can change any moment. That is when you start realizing we need to be very alert. We need to be very wakeful about the fact of the preciousness of all, of the significance of each moment. But for the normal way of going, it looks like so far away, so difficult. One just wants to manage the routine and somehow pass the time. So many people do not recognize the need for confronting and going deeper into understanding reality because everything is still in abundance. That is why scarcity, difficulties, problems make us aware that things are not to be taken for granted. It is very significant that it comes into our realization. And when it comes into your conscious recognition and your realization, then you appreciate, you see the wonder, you see the blessing, that it is all so significant, valuable, wondrous. It is all a present. And that is when your life is really transformed, because suddenly you realize that behind everything and every manifestation of life, there's so much intelligence, there's so much care, so much beauty, so much consideration, so much playfulness. And when you go deeper in this way, you start seeing that all what life brings has a significance for your development as a human being, for your possibility to realize who you are, what you are. So, when I say take the challenges of life as a signal to learn through it, to grow through it, to ripen through it, then you don't go into blindly fighting or trying to run away from so-called problems. You face them. And then you look, what is it that I need to learn? What is it that I have not really understood? What is it I have to go differently with? So you suddenly get a new approach to life. You start realizing that all what is there has its value, has its significance, and life brings in its way of going that what is valuable for our individual clarity, individual ripening, individual flowering. Sometimes I have been telling friends to look at everyone in life as a friend. It is normally not so conceivable because some people you have very strong reaction to. You say that they are against me, they are inimical to me. I cannot appreciate them. I hate them. I am angry with them. But if you look carefully, you will realize one thing. Those who are friendly to you, they make it comfortable for you to be here. They live the dream which you want also to live. But those who are critical to you, those who are disturbing your status quo, those who seem to be problem for you, are the ones who are touching that what you carry unconsciously, uncleared, and is operating in you, is working in you, is using up your energy, is consuming your life. So those who understand, they will see that you need friendly friends and unfriendly friends. From your side, that's what I say often, take everybody as a friend. From your side, look at everyone as a friend. Some are friendly friends to you, some are unfriendly friends. Let them be. You respond to them. Don't just go into blind reaction and settle there. Bring attention so that you can answer out of your clarity, out of your intelligence, out of your compassion, out of your insight. And that is how you learn, you grow, you ripen, you become inwardly free. Because all that what you have not confronted and cleared are creating a division in you. But once it is confronted and cleared in you, then your inner division is cleared. And that also means nobody can drag you into mud. People will touch in different ways. Some may be friendly, some may be unfriendly. But you also see that you don't need to get lost in any kind of reaction in a blind way. And this is how you become free. When you see what is getting touched in you, and you can see that your life energy need not get overtaken by these patterns, and that is your capacity. And that is what awareness process does. When you are present, when you are with the moment, when you are looking at all that what is taking place in you, and all the undercurrent factors connected with it, then a moment comes where you see that these patterns cannot overtake you. Then you will be even very grateful for all those who are playing your unfriendly friend, because you see that they helped you to become free. So try to understand it very carefully. This is what I mean when I say about life surfing. Accept what life brings, and in a way, in a very simple way of looking, that what is coming from outside is not in your hand. You cannot decide it. But what you make out of it is left to you, and that is your key. That is your chance to get clear and be free. So the outward orientedness in a blind way entangles you, but as you bring attention to this outward oriented way of reacting and see what is taking place inside you, and in this way connect to the wholeness of the reality, you suddenly realize you are becoming more and more clear. You are becoming free from your inner conflicts. You are able to respond. And response in a deeper sense is a response out of clarity, out of a basis of understanding and compassion. That is when you realize that when I am not trapped in myself, I have a deep understanding for everybody. Then your basis for connecting to everybody is compassion and love. And you appreciate that everybody is so unique, everybody is the way they are. You don't try to force any change on anybody. It becomes a different insight into the reality. That is why I say life surfing is giving you a perspective to go about life which enables you to awaken to your divinity, awaken to the love which you carry in you, the potential of joy and peace which is there in you, to realize it, to live it, and flower as a human being.
The Life Surfing Podcast will be back next week. In the meantime, make sure that you're following us right here on Spotify.